It's finally happening. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere are stepping back into the world that made them one of Hollywood's most unforgettable couples. After more than 3 decades since Pretty Woman first captured our hearts, the magic is returning in a brand new sequel that promises to blend nostalgia with an exciting new chapter. Fans everywhere have been holding their breath for this moment, and now the dream reunion is real. The thought of seeing Vivian and Edward on screen again is enough to bring back memories of that iconic red dress, the rooftop rescue, and a love story that defined an era. When Pretty Woman first hit theaters in 1990, it wasn't just another romantic comedy, it was a cultural phenomenon. Julia Roberts' portrayal of Vivian Ward, a woman full of spirit and charm, instantly won over audiences, paired with Richard Gere's Edward Lewis, a wealthy businessman who learns the true meaning of love. Their chemistry was electric. The film didn't just tell a love story, it offered hope, showing that love could break barriers, change people, and inspire second chances. Roberts' infectious smile and Gere's quiet charm made them the perfect on-screen pair, turning Pretty Woman into a timeless classic. Now, after years of speculation, rumors, and wishful thinking, the sequel is officially in the works. This isn't just a casual comeback, it's a full-circle moment for both the actors and the fans. The announcement alone has sent waves of excitement through social media, with hashtags trending worldwide and fans revisiting the original film in anticipation. It's rare for a love story to get a second chapter decades later, but that's exactly what makes Pretty Woman 2 so special. It's a chance to revisit beloved characters, explore how their lives have changed, find out if that once-in-a-lifetime connection still holds after all these years. In this upcoming sequel, we can expect the same heart and sparkle that made the original unforgettable, but with a richer, more mature perspective. The characters we once knew have grown, faced life's challenges, and perhaps even drifted apart. But if there's one thing Pretty Woman taught us, it's that love has a way of finding its way back, no matter how much time has passed. And with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere returning to bring that story to life once more, this is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated romantic comebacks in Hollywood history. The story of Pretty Woman wasn't just about romance, it was about transformation, vulnerability, and taking a chance on someone who defied every expectation. When we first met Vivian Ward, she wasn't living the fairy tale life. She was a woman trying to survive, navigating a world that often judged her before knowing her. But Julia Roberts brought such warmth and depth to the role that audiences couldn't help but root for her. Vivian wasn't perfect, but she was real funny, honest, and unapologetically herself. Edward Lewis, played with quiet sophistication by Richard Gere, began as a man who measured everything in business terms. Yet over the course of the film, he discovered something he'd been missing all along: connection, compassion, and love without conditions. One of the reasons the original Pretty Woman still resonates today is because it flipped the classic romance script. This wasn't the usual tale of a powerful man saving a woman in distress. It was just as much about Vivian saving Edward from his own emotional isolation. That rooftop ending, where Edward overcomes his fear of heights to rescue Vivian, wasn't really about rescuing at all. It was about showing up for someone, making the leap, literally and emotionally, even when it's uncomfortable. And that's why the chemistry between Roberts and Gere felt so authentic. They weren't just acting out a love story. They were embodying the idea that love changes people. Fans have held on to those moments for more than 30 years. The laughter. In the shopping montage, the awkward but sweet conversations. The way Edward's walls slowly crumbled, they've become touchstones in the romantic comedy genre. That's why the announcement of a sequel isn't just exciting. It feels like being invited back into a world that shaped how we see love on screen. This time, we'll meet Vivian and Edward at a completely different point in their lives. Decades have passed. They've lived, loved, and perhaps lost along the way. And that makes the potential reunion even more compelling, because love stories aren't just about the beginning, they're also about what happens after. Happily ever after. As we look back at the first film, it's clear why its legacy endures. It had charm, it had humor, but most importantly, it had heart. That heart is what fans hope will carry into Pretty Woman. 2. The magic of the original wasn't in the glitz or the glamour. Though the ball gowns and penthouse views were unforgettable, it was in the way these characters saw each other. Beyond appearances, if the sequel can recapture that emotional truth, it won't just be a nostalgic trip down memory lane. While the official plot of Pretty Woman 2 is still being kept under wraps, bits of information and whispers from insiders have started to give fans a taste of what might be in store. Industry reports suggest that the sequel will not simply rehash the original storyline, but instead explore a fresh chapter that reflects the passage of time. Vivian and Edward are no longer the carefree couple strolling down Rodeo Drive. They've faced decades of lives, unpredictability, careers, personal choices, and perhaps even moments of distance that tested their bond. This gives the sequel the opportunity to tell a richer, more layered love story, one that's not about falling in love for the first time, but about rediscovering it. One of the most exciting aspects is the potential emotional depth this sequel can bring. Imagine Vivian, now a woman who has built her own life beyond Edward's influence, stepping back into his world after years apart. How has she changed? What lessons has she carried with her from that whirlwind romance so many years ago? And what about Edward? The man who once prided himself on being in control of everything, has time softened his edges, or has he struggled to keep that sense of openness she awakened in him? These are the kinds of questions the sequel can explore, giving audiences an emotional payoff that feels both fresh and earned. There are also hints that the sequel could address the modern world in ways the original never could. Relationships now unfold in a far more interconnected, fast-moving society.
Yes.
The stakes are different, the challenge is more complex. If Vivian and Edward's love story is to survive this second chapter, it will have to contend with not just personal differences, but the realities of a new era. This opens the door to moments of humor, tension, heartfelt reflection that will resonate with both fans of the seasonal, original, and a new generation of viewers discovering the story for the first time. Beauty of this approach is that it doesn't rely solely on nostalgia to carry the film. While we'll undoubtedly see callbacks to iconic moments, perhaps a playful nod to that legendary shopping spree, or a subtle echo of Edward's limo arrival, the focus seems to be on telling a story that stands on its own. This isn't just what happened after. It's what happens when love comes back into your life after you've lived enough to understand what it really means. And with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere bringing decades of personal and professional growth to their roles, Pretty Woman 2 could deliver a love story that feels both familiar and entirely new. Asterisk. The reunion of Julia Roberts and Richard Gere is enough to make headlines on its own. But Pretty Woman 2 is also shaping up to bring fresh energy with new faces and expanded storytelling. While the original film thrived on the intimate dynamic between Vivian and Edward, the sequel has the chance to broaden its world, introducing characters who challenge, inspire, and even complicate their relationship. Industry whispers point to the possibility of a younger supporting cast, perhaps representing the next generation of dreamers, dakers, and lovers navigating their own complicated romances. This could create parallel storylines, where Vivian and Edward see reflections of their younger selves in these new characters, sparking both nostalgia and self-discovery. Rumors suggest that the sequel may welcome back a few familiar faces from the original, offering fans the thrill of seeing where those beloved side characters ended up. Imagine reuniting with Kit, Vivian's outspoken best friend, and learning how her life unfolded after the events of the first film. Or catching up with some of the quirky personalities from the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, whose warmth and charm added so much to the original story's atmosphere. These touches could bridge the gap between past and present, rewarding loyal fans while still keeping the focus on a fresh, compelling narrative. What's also intriguing is how the film might handle generational perspectives on love and success. The original Pretty Woman celebrated bold choices and breaking free from stereotypes. In today's world, those themes can be expanded to reflect new social dynamics, shifting gender roles, evolving definitions of success, and the importance of emotional authenticity over material wealth. Having new characters interact with, Vivian and Edward could allow for rich conversations about how love and ambition have changed and how some truths remain timeless. Of course, all of this will be wrapped in the kind of visual elegance that made the original so enchanting. Fans can expect stunning wardrobe moments, memorable settings, perhaps even a return to the glitz and glamour of Los Angeles. But beneath the style lies the heart of the story. Emotional reconnection of two people whose love once defied the odds. By surrounding them with new characters and fresh conflicts, Pretty Woman 2 isn't just banking on nostalgia, it's building a bridge between then and now, proving that love stories can grow, deepen, and still leave us breathless. The announcement of Pretty Woman 2 has unleashed a tidal wave of excitement across the internet, with fans sharing their memories of the original and speculating wildly about what the sequel could bring. Social media has been flooded with nostalgic posts, clips of Vivian in her iconic red gown, Edward's heartfelt gestures, and of course, that unforgettable big mistake. Huge shopping scene. Longtime admirers aren't just eager for the return of Roberts and Gere, they're also reflecting on how the original film shaped their own ideas of love, confidence, and possibility. For many, Pretty Woman wasn't just entertainment, it was a cultural touchstone. A film that made them believe in second chances and unexpected connections. Critics and entertainment outlets have been quick to point out how rare this kind of reunion is in Hollywood. While reboots and sequels are common, it's unusual for a romantic comedy, especially one over 30 years old, to bring back its original leads in a story that acknowledges the passage of time. This isn't about recasting or reimagining. It's about seeing the same characters, played by the same actors, living in a new chapter of their lives. That authenticity is part of what makes the project so magnetic. Viewers will be watching not only to see what happens to Vivian and Edward, but to witness Roberts and Gere bringing their own decades of experience into these roles. The cultural significance goes even deeper. When Pretty Woman premiered in 1990, it offered a kind of escapist romance that felt both glamorous and grounded. It broke box office records, became a staple of the romantic comedy genre, and launched Julia Roberts into superstardom. In the years since, its influence has lingered in countless films, TV shows, and pop culture references. Pretty Woman 2 has the opportunity to do something similar. To capture the hearts of a new generation while giving longtime fans the emotional closure or continuation they've been craving. The reactions so far suggest that audiences aren't just interested in a sequel for the sake of nostalgia. They're hungry for a story that feels hopeful, that reminds them love can endure and evolve, even in an uncertain world. In a time when so many films focus on cynicism or irony, the return of Vivian and Edward offers something rare: sincerity. And if the filmmakers deliver on that promise, Pretty Woman 2 could become more than a long-awaited follow-up. It could be the romantic event of the decade. One of the biggest questions surrounding Pretty Woman 2 is what tone and style it will embrace. The original was a perfect blend of romance, humor, and fairy tale charm, all wrapped in the glitz of early 90s Los Angeles. But the sequel has a chance to evolve that style for today's world. It's creating something that feels both familiar and refreshingly modern. Will it keep the sweeping romantic gestures and glossy visuals fans adore, or lean into a more grounded, emotionally raw approach? Either way, the key will be balancing nostalgia with growth, showing that Vivian and Edward's love still has magic, but now carries the depth of two people who have lived full, complicated lives. The setting could also play a huge role in defining the sequel's atmosphere. The first film was deeply tied to the glamorous, sun-soaked streets of Beverly Hills. And while a return to those iconic locations would delight fans, the sequel might explore new backdrops that reflect how far the characters have come. Perhaps they've moved to a different city, travel together, or revisit places that once defined their relationship. These choices could allow for a richer, more cinematic world that expands beyond the luxury hotels and shopping sprees, showing us that romance can blossom anywhere, whether in a quiet cafe or under the glow of a foreign city. In terms of themes, there's an opportunity to tackle deeper emotional truths. The original celebrated love breaking barriers, but Pretty Woman 2 can explore what it takes to maintain that love over decades. The challenges aren't the same as they were in their 20s now. It's about reconciling differences shaped by years apart, finding common ground again, and understanding how people change without losing the connection that once brought them together. Humor can still play a role, but the laughs will likely come from knowing looks, shared history, and the quirks of rekindling a romance after so much time. Stylistically, fans can expect a mix of old and new. The costumes might nod to Vivian's unforgettable fashion moments while introducing updated, sophisticated looks. The music could blend classic romantic ballads with modern tracks that speak to the film's updated energy, just like the original. There will likely be at least one scene destined to become iconic, a moment that viewers will remember and quote for years to come. If done right, Pretty Woman 2 won't just be a continuation of a beloved love story. It will be a visual and emotional experience that bridges generations, proving that romance, when told with sincerity and heart, never goes out of style, asterisk as the excitement builds. One thing is certain, Pretty Woman 2 isn't just a movie release. It's a cinematic event decades in the making. The return of Julia Roberts and Richard Gere as Vivian and Edward carries a weight of expectation. But it also holds the promise of something rare, a love story that grows with its audience. Fans who first fell in love with the original in 1990 have lived entire lifetimes since then. They've experienced their own romances, heartbreaks, and second chances. Now, they get to see a story that mirrors that journey, offering not just escapism, but a heartfelt reflection on how love matures over time. The film's marketing already hints that this won't be a simple nostalgia trip. Teaser images and early promotional whispers suggest that the sequel will give us both the sparkle we remember and the emotional resonance we didn't know we needed. There's talk of moments that directly mirror iconic scenes from the first film, not as carbon copies, but as emotional callbacks, subtle reminders of where Vivian and Edward began, now layered with the history of where they've been. That interplay between past and present could be the key to making the sequel unforgettable. For fans, the anticipation isn't just about plot details, it's about the feeling. The chance to sit in a theater, hear that opening music, and see Roberts and Gere share the screen again is enough to bring back the rush of first discovering Pretty Woman. And for a younger generation who may be watching the story for the first time, it's an opportunity to experience a kind of romantic filmmaking that's become increasingly rare, one that's unabashedly sincere, stylish, and emotionally rich. As we count down to the trailer and eventual release, the buzz will only grow louder. Every new photo, cast interview, and behind-the-scenes clip will be picked apart by fans eager to uncover clues. But perhaps the most exciting part is knowing that soon we'll all share that same moment again, sitting in the dark, waiting for the screen to light up and being swept back into a love story that has stood the test of time. Pretty Woman 2 isn't just coming to theaters. It's coming for our hearts, ready to remind us why some stories deserve to be told twice.